Hello and welcome to this week's edition of D2 Baseball and covering every conference that covered over the last week. And a lot happened over the last week, Will, and we're excited to talk about it. And we're excited to talk a lot about Division II baseball. And well, we'll start by getting started with a conference that started play this past weekend, and that's the CACC. And the CACC, Felician and Post both kicked off their season. Felician, the conference tournament winners last year. Post set a program record for wins a year ago. And Felician played in a mini three-team round robin this past weekend as they went 1-3 against Barton and East Stroudsburg. Thankfully, their one win was against a ranked East Stroudsburg in a bit of a shootout, a 16-10 ball game. And Jack Scrivanik of Felician, a Richard Jr., started the year pretty hot. He went 7-13 with 5 RBIs, 4 runs, hit 2 home runs, and hit 2 doubles. And well, he has a fourth of the team's hits so far in their 4 games. So, great start for Scrivanik, and we'll see how Felician plays out the rest of the season. A lot of expectations coming off a conference championship. But then we go over to Post, a team that did set a program record. They went down to Florida. They only went 1-2, but big pitching from Matt Saman, who is a senior from Post, transferred from St. John's. He went 6 innings, gave up 1 earned run, and struck out 7 on Friday by beating Palm Beach Atlantic 5-1. And so they got a big test upcoming this weekend. Post does, as they're going to play North Greenville at North Greenville. And, well, as you mentioned, Post is projected to win the North Division in the CACC preseason poll. And as we talk about some other teams that'll get started here in the future, Goldie Beacom, who's picked to win the South Division, they will start this weekend as well. And they'll start it in a place where they want to end it in Cary, North Carolina. So a lot of other teams will get started. So Bloomfield is the other team that will get started this weekend. And everybody else who has yet to play won't start until the following weekend, beginning February 23rd. And of the teams still remaining to play, Caldwell will be the last remaining team to play starting in March 5th. But as we transition from the CACC to the CCAA, we'll talk a little bit about the CCAA and what they did this past weekend.
Absolutely. Well, one team that really started the year off hot was Sonoma State, but they were idle this past weekend. They're at Fresno Pacific upcoming this weekend, and then they'll meet Monterey Bay to begin conference play, a 4-game slate on the 23rd. Definitely looking forward to that. Obviously, they're coached by a legend who's been at the helm for nearly 4 decades, has won 1,153 games, and a guy who's tied for the second most wins among active D2 coaches, and they start the year 4-0. But again, they were idle. Chico State, they went 3-0 over Montana State Billings this weekend, and they will be off this coming weekend before starting conference play at Cal Poly Pomona on the 23rd. And speaking of Cal Poly Pomona, Noel Soto won CCAA Pitcher of the Week after throwing 6 shutout innings in the Broncos' 10-2 win over Azusa Pacific on Friday. They took 3 of 4 in that series against the Cougars. The senior righty only allowed just 3 singles. He struck out 8 in his first start of the year. And if Cal Poly Pomona can get good starts from him, consistently, this is going to be a team that's going to be hard to beat in a lot of game ones of series with what Noel Soto did, CCAA Pitcher of the Week, as we mentioned. And they're 3-1 now. They'll take on defending NAIA national champion Westmont, who's in their first season in the PacWest in a 4-game series starting on Thursday. Number 7, Cal State San Bernardino. They swept Colorado Christian on opening weekend, but they split this past weekend against Central Washington. They play Biola this coming weekend, then go to San Fran State to begin conference play the following weekend. And speaking of San Fran State in this conference, it was Anthony Alvarez who did a lot of good stuff. He was CCAA Player of the Week. He went 6 of 15, 8 runs driven in, had a double, a triple, and a home run, and scored 4 runs during the weekend. They're off to a 4-2 start, and they play Azusa this coming weekend, who's looking to turn things around just a little bit. But with that, obviously a couple undefeated teams in Sonoma and Chico, and then Cal State East Bay. They're 7-2 right now within the league overall. No conference games have begun yet in this league, but that is a team to certainly watch. And then I really like what Pomona did, taking 3 of 4. That's a little bit of a statement victory that they had. And then obviously San Bernardino, they're 5-2, and a team that was ranked 7th in D2BI's preseason poll. Certainly a team you got to watch out for. And obviously Monterey Bay, they're 4-4, but a force to be reckoned with out west, no doubt about that.
Absolutely. And, Will, you talked about Cal Poly Pomona, a regional team last year, a little bit overlooked because of the main focus on Cal State San Bernardino and Cal State Monterey Bay, who went 1-3 against Point Loma this weekend. Cal Poly Pomona saying, hey, what about us? And so there's a chance that they want to see the top of the CCAA at the end of the season. But as we go over from the CCAA over to the Conference Carolinas. And, well, the Conference Carolinas had a lot of success this past weekend. A lot of teams winning a lot of games. We have quite a few unbeaten teams here to start the season. So UNC Pembroke is 6-0. Young Harris is 6-0. Barton is 7-0. A lot of teams winning. North Greenville, although they lost once last weekend, they had a 4-0 week this week. This past week, Emmanuel had played a lot of games this week. They played Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 1 Friday, and 2 Saturday. And they went 5-1. Their only loss against Trevecca Nazarene. And going into Emmanuel, head coach Jeff Kilgore won his 200th ball game as a head coach on Wednesday in that win against Alabama Huntsville. And they're sitting 6-3, heading their series with Thomas More, pending this week's midweek, obviously. But Conference Carolinas Player of the Week, Nick Deach, had a big outing this past week, hitting .409 with 6 home runs, a double, and 8 runs scored. He went 6 for 13 with 4 home runs and 10 RBIs this past weekend. Those stats I mentioned were his season stats, but he currently leads the country with 6 home runs in 8 games. And what makes it interesting, Will, is he only had 4 home runs last year in 151 at-bats and only 5 home runs in his career, 242 at-bats across 2 full seasons. But he has 6 home runs in 8 games and just 22 at-bats. So it's safe to say that he's found a little bit of his power stroke lately. So as we continue on and talk about another team that is off to a hot start, Barton is 7-0. Playing all their games at home. They beat Felician twice, and they beat ranked East Stroudsburg in a game as well. The Bulldogs have allowed 3 runs or fewer in 6 of their 7 games. And right now, Barton is hitting .356 as a team, has a conference best .495 OBP, and they also lead the league with a .253 ERA. And that's led by two-way player Tanner Halverson, who's hitting .364 with 5 doubles and 8 RBIs, and is 1-0 with a .327 ERA across 11 innings, 2 starts. But we also want to talk about John McNamee, as we're going to follow 2-3-4-5 method. He hit 2 home runs, had 3 total hits, had just 4 at-bats, and 5 RBIs for Barton. And just an impressive weekend for McNamee in a short amount of time. And Pembroke, again, mentioned earlier, they started 6-0. They swept Shepherd this past weekend. We'll play IUP coming up. Luke Barrow struck out 7 against Shepherd on Saturday through 5 innings and did not allow a hit. He's only allowed 3 hits through 2 starts, so he's 1-0 with a 2 ERA and has 11 Ks on the season. And he was mostly a reliever last year, going 32 1/3 with a 3-0 record. And then new member, Young Harris, is 6-0 to start the year. They're a force to be reckoned with, coming off a massive series sweep against West Georgia and playing another good team in Columbus State, a familiar foe from their former conference in the Peach Belt. In 4 of their 6 wins, they have 10 or more runs a game. And leading on that offense is Jackson Kemp, who's hitting .474, 9 of 19, with 4 home runs in the double. And, of course, we can't talk about the Conference Carolinas without mentioning North Greenville, 6-1. They won 5 games in a row. Big midweek win against Lenore-Rhine on the road at Lenore-Rhine. They took on Post this weekend, as mentioned earlier. But the middle of the order might be the best in the nation, and Reese Field's as good as it gets at this level. 2-0 and 2 starts with a .75 ERA and a .67 WHIP across 12 innings, and he has 16 strikeouts and just 2 walks. And if you weren't seeing it earlier, I was on the North Greenville Twitter Spaces earlier, and we talked a little bit about Conference Carolinas. And one player that was mentioned on there by assistant coach Trey Dyson was Dawson Taylor, a back-end arm to watch, as he was up to 97 according to Coach Dyson on the fastball. And David Lewis has 15 RBIs already through 7 games. So a lot to talk about there. And then we obviously got to talk about Mount Olive. They went down to Florida. They went 3-1 this weekend. Erskine bounced back by winning games at Mount Olive did that. Erskine bounced back, and then Belmont Abbey only played 1 game this weekend against Trevecca Nazarene, as the next 2 were canceled. So, lot of success early on for the Conference Carolinas. But speaking of success, or I guess successfully starting, is the East Coast Conference, as there's one of 2 teams that started. And Will, tell us a little bit about the East Coast the East Coast Conference is start.
Yeah, Duville was one of 2 ECC teams who got in action this weekend. They started the season going 2-0. They beat Clarion on Friday in a doubleheader. They scored 9 runs in each games. Grad student Jeremy Glazinski went 4 for 4 with a home run, recorded 4 walks as well, and John Simpson was 4 of 8 in the sweep. 2 of those hits were home runs for him. He drove in half the team's runs with 9 RBIs in the 2 games. And then Bryce Hediger, he threw 5 scoreless and gave up just 1 hit. So he threw the ball certainly well. And then Lincoln, they played a single game. They lost against Clark Atlanta. So a lot of teams still set to start, like Mercy and Malloy and Queens and St. Thomas Aquinas and Staten Island as well, who still need to get going for the East Coast Conference. But Duville and Lincoln were the 2 that got going this weekend.
And as we talk about getting going this weekend, so did the Great American Conference, and there's a lot of successful teams there as well in the Great American Conference, as we're going to talk about a lot of teams within here. But first, let's talk about Harding. Maddox Long, the big 6'5", 290-pound right-handed pitcher who was selected as the D2BI National Player of the Week. He went 7 shutout, had only 1 hit, didn't give up a run, 1 walk, and struck out 11 in a 7-0 win against Southwest Baptist on Friday. So Harding has won 5 straight and is now 6-1 on the season. DH/catcher Sebastian Martinez has been a key cog for that Harding lineup, as he has 14 RBIs in just 7 games. And as we talk about milestones too, Oklahoma Baptist senior Alex Schroeder set a milestone as he broke the school's all-time home run record in the first game of a doubleheader Friday. With his 47th career home run, he added another one, and now he is tied with Jake Jelly of Minnesota Crookston with 48 career home runs, first among active players in Division II baseball. And he went 6 for 12 over the weekend, 7 runs scored, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, as the Bison are 6-1, winning 4 in a row. And they have a big series upcoming this weekend against Arkansas Tech, and that midweek is also pending there. As another team we want to talk about is Southwestern Oklahoma State. They hosted Missouri Southern on a midweek this past week on Tuesday, and, well, they picked up a big 7-4 win. And then the winning continued as this weekend they had a 4-game sweep of Adams State, making it a 5-0 week. And it's led by junior pitcher Josh Raines, who's been dominant out of the bullpen in the early going, throwing 7 innings with 14 strikeouts and just 2 relief appearances. And then another team we want to talk about is the Northwestern Oklahoma State, as they're a big fan of walk-offs. They've already had 3 walk-off wins this season of their 7 wins. And Dylan Bradford is a big part of that offense, with hitting 448, 13 of 29, 9 runs, 4 doubles, and 5 walks. He was 10 of 16 this past weekend. 6 runs scored and 3 doubles as, like I mentioned, Northwestern Oklahoma State got a sweep against Truman State and has won 5 games in a row.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good stuff right there, obviously out of the GAC. They obviously Schroeder's an All-American guy to watch. He was a third-team selection last year, and check out our interview we did with him talking about his milestone for sure. And Robert, as we talk about more conferences, the GLIAC, another conference, but nobody played this weekend. They haven't started yet. One of the few conferences to not have any action. So with that being said, we'll go on and talk about the Great Lakes Valley Conference. 7 teams have started. Rockhurst is 2-0, UIS 2-1, Maryville went 1-1, UMSL they stayed at 1-3 after being idle this weekend, and then McKendree, SBU, and Truman all got going, but they did not win. Adonis Forte, he went 4 of 9 with a homer, a double, and 3 runs driven in for Rockhurst. He had a very strong opening weekend. They took 2 versus Christian Brothers, and then the final game of the series was canceled. But Adonis Forte, a first-team All-GLVC guy last year, hit 400 a couple years ago, 377 last year, and certainly a player to watch. UIS, obviously, a lot to look at with this team after they lost so much last year. I mean, they lost the most guys in the country in terms of production, Robert. I know that's a number that you pulled, and but they swept GLVC Player of the Week honors with Matt Clark going 7 of 12 with 3 runs driven in, 3 doubles, had a homer. Gavin Walbrink, he looked like an ace that he's going to have to be this year after their whole rotation got lost to the D1 level. But they've been a traditional power, new coach, a lot of new faces. But Matt Clark stepped up, a guy who got limited at bats last year but had success. And then Walbrink inserted into this rotation. Also, Michael Pauly of McKendree, he went 6 of 12 with 3 bombs, 5 runs driven in, had a double, a triple, an opening weekend for those McKendree Bearcats. So that was definitely a good start despite the 0-3 start for them.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Will, some action going on in the GLVC. We'll see more action as we continue on with Quincy, ranked number 13 in the country. Will be starting this weekend. Indy will also be starting this weekend with Notre Dame College. So the team that made the World Series from the GLVC. So a lot to look forward to coming up for the GLVC, as now we're going to start to enter more teams getting into play this upcoming weekend. But as we go to the GLVC, we'll go to the GNAC, and there's only one team to play this weekend, and it was Kentucky Wesleyan, and unfortunately they got swept. So everyone in the GNAC that has played so far this year is 0-10. Not off to a great start, but when we talk about success, more teams will start in the coming weeks, and we even had the active D2 wins leader, John Shalley with Ashland, who's projected to win in the preseason poll, the GMAC. So he'll be featured in the D2BI magazine next week, so be on the lookout for that. And they also have Tim Mead, who's in his 41st season with Walsh. And like I mentioned, John Shalley is in season number 37, 27th with Ashland. And so they won't start for another 10 days. They'll start on the 23rd of February, and we'll see Findlay, we'll see Hillsdale, Malone, Northwood, Ohio Dominican, Thomas More, and Walsh play. So everybody but Ashland and Tiffin will get their season started this weekend.
Yeah, definitely a league to watch out for with what they can do moving forward. And as we move forward, we're going to talk about the GNAC, Great Northwest Athletic Conference. Northwest Nazarene, they were nearly perfect over the weekend, going 2-0-1 at Stanislaus State. In the first game of the series, Jonathan Zayas was masterful. He went 7 innings, allowed just 1 hit, no runs, 9 Ks. He was GNAC Pitcher of the Week. Sophomore two-way guy, Callier Saunders. He's a graduate infielder. And grad infielder Duke Pahuka. They're both hitting above 400 for this team. of Northwest Nazarene. They look to continue their momentum this weekend against NAIA foe College of Idaho for heading to number 10 Colorado Mesa on February 22nd through 24th. And in Central Washington, they got a good series split against number 7 San Bernardino. They won the first game of the series. They got the win after big extra innings home run from the junior catcher Ben Lead, winning 4-2 in that game. He's tied for the team with 4 extra base hits this season. Redshirt junior lefty Reed Rasmussen, he pitched to the tune of 2 hits, no runs, 7 Ks over 5 2/3, and he played a big role in their 3-0 win. Good job by him in that game, and the Wildcats will continue their California road series as they play Stanislaus State in a 4-game set next weekend. So that'll be something to watch out for this league. And the GNAC, as a couple teams were beginning their season as well, and every team's at least played a game in that smaller league.
Yeah, a small 5-team league, and St. Martin's got the opportunity to play out in the Big Island Baseball Bash in Hawaii. They're still there playing midweeks this week in Hawaii before they return back to the Pacific Northwest. But as we go from the Pacific Northwest, now we're going to go to the Gulf South Conference, and we're going to talk a little bit there. And we're going to talk about a guy who only got out twice, had 10 at-bats, only got out twice, and that's Wesley Sides with Mississippi College. He went 8 of 10 with 2 home runs, 2 doubles, a triple, and 6 RBIs. He also drew 6 walks, scored 8 times as they swept Miles College. And, Wesley Sides, just a great overall performance this past week. JT Vance for the Choctaws also went 8 for 15 with 7 runs scored. He had 11 RBIs, 2 home runs, 3 doubles, and a triple. But Mr. Wesley Sides, he's 12 of 20 on the year, hitting 600, 10 runs scored, 4 home runs, 13 RBIs, slugging almost 1,500 through the first 7 games with an OPS above 2,000. And, speaking of Mississippi College, we're going to keep on that trend. And Holland Towns, the Southern Mississippi transfer, shoved against Miles on the second start. He went 7 1/3 shutout innings with 7 strikeouts and allowed just 3 hits. He has a 2.92 ERA through his first 2 starts of the season. And, keep an eye on those 5-2 Choctaws. They've had an uncharacteristic down year last year, going 16-33, but they're looking to pick it up as, another team that's kind of picking up offensively is Delta State. They're hitting .335 through 6 games as a team. They're 3-3 after taking 2 of 3 at Spring Hill, including that big win over the weekend, winning 19-1. How about Shorter? 32 out of 34 this year on stolen bases. So getting after it on the base paths. And so they have the second most in the country. Jacob Hazier is leading the offense right now, hitting .469 in 143 career games. He's hitting .327 with 108 RBIs, 16 home runs, 29 doubles, and 128 scored. So that experience is a big part of Shorter's early 7-0 unbeaten record. And, they swept Miles, swept Fairmont State, and, they have a massive Gulf South opening series coming up against Lee. And so we're going to be tuning into that. And speaking of Lee on Sunday came back from 9 runs down against Mars Hill and ended up winning on a walk-off single 10-9. And be sure to follow DIVII Baseball on Twitter to see the highlight reel of all 10 of those runs being scored in that comeback. Another team we want to talk about is Valdosta State. They have a 2.318 ERA. They took 2 of 3 against Florida Tech, and now 3-1 headed in their conference series with Auburn Montgomery. And then you can't talk about the Gulf South Conference without talking about number 11 ranked West Florida. Got a sweep over USC Aiken over the weekend, took 2 of 3 against Florida Southern on opening weekend. And so now they have a big test coming up as they go to number 2 ranked, according to D2BI, Rollins, as they ride that 5-game win streak into that series. And then last but not least, Montevideo, they're hot, losing all 3 on opening weekend. They won a midweek and then swept UVA-wise over the weekend as they take on Northwood University, a team that won the GMAC last year and was dominant for having 40-plus wins, and that's another series to watch between those two teams.
Oh, yeah, it is. That's going to be a good one to watch, and a conference to watch as conference plays heating up is the Lone Star Conference. UT Permian Basin, they went to Lubbock, and they won 3 of 4. Sophomore infielder Mason Hamlin, he recorded an RBI in every game in the series. He's hitting .355 on the season. And transfer junior righty Brock Roberts. He's been huge for the Falcons in relief, appearing in 3 games over the weekend, not allowing a run. He's 2 saves on the year. Head coach Gabe Grinder. He's on a previous page in this magazine. You can check him out, or if you're not watching, you could subscribe to D2 Baseball Insider /subscribe to hear our talk with him. They host number 1 Angelo upcoming this weekend. And speaking of Angelo, they open up their first home series with a 4-game sweep over Cameron. They score 54 runs and allow just 7 in the process. Trip Clark had an outstanding weekend. As we expected, the guy who's likely to be an All-American pick had 13 runs driven in, 4 home runs, and went 8 of 13 over the weekend. He's hitting .519 on the season. And he has the potential to be not only one of the best catchers in the country, but just one of the best players in the country. Dan Daxey, the Texas Tech transfer, struck out 10 in 5 2/3. Him and Braxton Pearson each lead the nation with 18 Ks apiece. Arkansas Fort Smith opened up their campaign sweeping Oklahoma Christian on the road by scoring double digits in 3 of 4 games. Noah Davis went 10 of 18 with a couple bombs and 9 runs driven in, and the staff posted a 2.40 ERA over the weekend as well. So Lone Star, obviously, Fort Smith sitting 4-0. West Texas A&M, I think, is a team to watch this year. They're 7-1. And you have Permian Basin at 6-2 right now. Lubbock's 5-3, and then of course the reigning champs 6-2. A lot to like in this league, and even teams like UT Tyler is 4-4. St. Edward's 3-3. St. Mary's 3-5. A lot of good teams that are winning league games already. So Lone Star's obviously always one to look out for because they have contenders, and they certainly have that again this year.
Absolutely, as you mentioned, the staff of Angelo State, the top 2 arms, both Braxton Pearson and Dax Daffy, leading the country in strikeouts so far this season, and lots of like there. And West Texas A&M, they got a great guy out of the bullpen. Hasn't allowed an earned run in 8 innings. Senior right-handed pitcher Reese Miller, 4 relief appearance. He struck out 10, and over this past weekend, he threw 5 2/3 without giving up a earned run. And so West Texas A&M will have a big weekend series this weekend against receiving votes St. Edwards. So very excited to look out for that. And another conference that is very excited to look out for is the MIAA, as a lot of success is going on there, as 6 teams currently have a winning streak of 3 or more games. It's not including the midweek series, but of those 6, Central Oklahoma, the Broncos, is the first D2 team in the 2024 campaign to go 8-0. They swept Arkansas Monticello this weekend, and they have yet to allow more than 5 runs in a single game, as their team ERA is an unbelievable 2.11. Their staff has been led by junior pitcher Dax Sharp, who has been nothing short of sharp with his 0.82 ERA and 11 strikeouts in 11 innings. Number 9, Central Missouri. Obviously can't talk about the MIAA without talking about them. They've won 4 straight. They swept Arkansas Tech at home with 2 walk-off wins. Junior Vance Tobel contributed one of those walk-offs, hit with a home run on Friday. He has hit .417 while slugging .833 on the campaign. And then let's talk a little bit about pitching. Missouri Southern had great starting pitching this weekend. All 3 of their starters this weekend against Ouachita Baptist went 7 or more innings and gave up 1 run or less. Cole Gaiman in game 1 threw a complete game, 7-inning complete game, as they run-ruled Ouachita Baptist, giving up 2 hits, 1 run, 2 walks, and 9 Ks. Trent Harris followed it by going 8 scoreless innings, 4 hits, 2 walks, 6 Ks. And Cale McAllister went 7 innings. He had 4 hits, didn't allow a run or a walk, and had 8 Ks. They all performed at a high level this weekend. So pitching will be crucial to advance far into the postseason and potentially to carry. And having 3 starters go 7 or more is very crucial for a team's success in getting there. Fort Hays State also, they've ripped off 5 straight wins. Great start of the year. Junior infielder and local in Hays, Kansas, to the program. Brady Kreutzer has been on a tear, hitting .429 with 8 of his 12 hits, going for extra bases, and 9 driven in. Missouri Western State swept St. Cloud State at home, shutting them out twice in the process. Samson Holcomb threw 5 no-hit innings out of relief to close out the first game of the series. And, well, after starting 0-4 on the season, Northeastern State turned the corner and had a 4-0 week this past week. That record was led by none other than C.D. White, the National Player of the Week for D2BI. He went 10 of 17 with 2 home runs and had 14 RBIs in 1 week. So impressive performance from the senior.
Absolutely. And as we progress, we will talk about the MEC, the Mountain East Conference. It was Concord who opened up their season on Sunday, playing a single game against Bluefield State. The Mountain Lions won a high-scoring 14-12 affair. MJ Hunter went 3 of 5, 3 hits, 3 runs driven in. Daniel Lane was perfect, going 3 of 3 with 3 runs driven in. And then Charleston out of West Virginia, head coach Dean Peterson notched his first win at the helm. New coach and a lot of new guys for this group, but they beat Wingate in both of their games of a doubleheader on Saturday. And Casey Fink went 4 of 12 with 3 runs driven in on the weekend for the Golden Eagles, as 3 of those 4 hits for him were extra bases. The staff threw the ball well, as they posted a 3.75 ERA with a bullpen ERA of 2.51. So the back end really did well of shutting things down, as there's just Concord, Charleston, and Fairmont State, along with Notre Dame out of Ohio. Just 4 of those teams have seen action so far in this conference. Fairmont went 0-3 at Shorter over the weekend, the aforementioned Shorter team who is undefeated right now.
And yeah, as you mentioned, those 4 teams, Notre Dame College was able to get 1 game in against Mercyhurst. They lost, but only 1 team got action in the NE10, and that team is Bentley. They went down to Florida and played a few different teams, but they went 1-2. But their big win was against the then 5-0 Lynn team, as they won 7-3, and that was led by none other than sophomore left-handed pitcher Pat Heber, who went 5 1/3 innings, gave up 3 hits and 2 runs, struck out 3. He put on a strong performance for Bentley, getting that win. And, well, there's a lot more teams to play this weekend upcoming. So Southern New Hampshire did play opening weekend in Houston, but they won't play again until February 22nd. However, there are a few teams that will be starting this weekend. American International will be playing Assumption St. Rose in their final season as a collegiate baseball program. Southern Connecticut State and St. Anselm, as a lot of other teams will then begin the following weekend, and the team that played last will start on Friday, March 1st, and that is Hayes against Slippery Rock.
Yes, and then we go on to the NSIC. Some conference action happened. Wayne State College, they go 4-0. They're the headline in this conference. They get an NSIC series sweep over Bemidji State. St. Cloud started 1-5 right now. Minnesota Crookston 1-2. But it's Carter Thomas who we need to talk about. He went 8 of 12 with 2 doubles, 3 runs driven in, 5 runs scored in opening weekend. Wayne State hit 326 as a team, and they only allowed Bemidji to hit 142. And a guy like Thomas hit 339 last year with 34 runs driven in, started 49 games in center. He is a guy that is going to carry this offense. In Wayne State, 4-0, great start for them. And then obviously some other action happening within this league and league play as well, but those were the only league games. And then obviously Crookston 1-2, St. Cloud now 1-5. And then of course Bemidji 0-4 after getting swept by as we just mentioned, Wayne State with the rest of the game, highlighted, of course, by Augustana and what their program has done and all their program support for D2 Baseball Insider. Much appreciated, but they're a team certainly to look out for once they get their season going, because what they've built there is nothing short of remarkable for one of the best D2 programs in the country.
Absolutely, and you mentioned, that they have provided D2 Baseball Insider a ton of love, and we're very grateful for that. But another thing we're very grateful for is the PacWest Conference, and a team within the PacWest Conference, a team that played in Cary in the title game just 2 years ago, Point Loma. They went to number 12 Cal State Monterey Bay on the road, and they won 3 of 4, and they allowed just 2 runs in their 3 wins, as senior shortstop Scott Anderson is leading the Sea Lions, hitting with a robust .542 batting average from 24 at-bats. He could be a National Player of the Year candidate if he keeps it up this teared stretch. And senior Dylan Miller, right-handed pitcher, has a .71 ERA in 2 starts this season. So Point Loma is starting to look like a team that might be making their way back to Cary, as they've had 9 different relievers make an appearance and not give up a run. So that pitching will go a long way here in Division II baseball, making your way to Cary, North Carolina. But as we talk about teams that open up, Concordia Irvine opened up, and they defeated Cal State San Marcos twice at home in a doubleheader. Only 2 of the 4 scheduled games were played due to weather, but sophomore Jordan Bolden went 4 of 7 with 3 extra base hits in the series, and redshirt junior right-handed pitcher Jake Covey struck out 6 in a 4 1/3 relief appearance and didn't allow a run. But as we talk about hot starts and good performances, let's go to Hawaii and talk about Hawaii Pacific. They're off to a great start, 7-1 record in the early campaign, as they went 3-1 in the Big Island Baseball Bash, with Hawaii Hilo hosting and Chaminade and St. Martin's, as we mentioned earlier. 3 players are hitting 400 better this season, led by sophomore catcher Ian Wolski. In 20 at-bats, Wolski's hitting an impressive .450. Senior right-handed pitcher Mac Leisure has been a big help on the bullpen, with 3 multi-inning scoreless appearances. So the PacWest looking like a strong conference there in the West region, to compete with the strength of the CCAA, as well as, Hawaii Pacific is 7-1, Concordia Irvine's 2-0. Biola, they went to MSU Denver. They won the first 2 games of a doubleheader, outscoring them by scoring 31 total runs in those 2 games. They're 4-2. Point Loma, as mentioned, they're 4-2. Fresno Pacific started, and they went 2-1. Hawaii Hilos 5-4. Chaminade, a new program, they got their second win this past weekend. They're 2-6. But another big story is Azusa Pacific struggling out of the gates. A team that was expected to be near the top. They were receiving votes. So 2-6, and there's a lot of struggles there. But Kirk Neuenhuis and company will definitely right the ship here pretty soon. That's a program that's not going to be down for very long.
I agree. You expect a lot of Azusa, and a 2-6 start, maybe not what you expect, but a tough schedule for them upcoming. So it'll be interesting to see how they progress. But as we progress, we'll talk about the Peach Belt Conference. And we're going to start with talking about Augusta, who won 3 games over the weekend over Kentucky Wesleyan. They scored a ton. Parker Ingram went off. He went 7-12, 4 bombs, and 8 RBIs over the weekend alone, and he's hitting .375 on the year through 7 games. Yes, of course, he was Peach Belt Conference Player of the Week for good reason. Mason Bernard, he also pitched 7 shutout in the series opener. Good starter, getting the ball game won, shut down Kentucky Wesleyan, and really just set a tone for that series. He only allowed 3 hits. North Georgia's 5-1. They swept Salem over the weekend, and they get ready for what should be a thrilling series against number 13 Quincy this weekend. They have 2 weekends under their belt while Quincy is beginning their season. Lander, they're 5-2, but they lost this past weekend series against Lincoln Memorial, dropping 2 of 3. Georgia Southwestern, they're 4-2, and they played perhaps the most thrilling series in D2 baseball this past weekend. Every game was close, including a 6-5 series opener in 15 innings. They lost also 11-7 in 10 innings the next day. So after 25 innings in 2 games, dropping both heartbreakers, they won 4-3 in the series finale. Or just a really well played series right there against a quality opponent. Andrew Geiger, through 2 starts, he's 1-0 through 10 innings, has 11 Ks, just 1 walk and 1 earned run, sub 1 ERA right now. And they have a 3.36 ERA as a staff now through 6 games. So Georgia Southwestern is certainly a team that can pitch it. And the grad transfer in Andrew Geiger from College of Mount St. Vincent, he was the Skyline Pitcher of the Year a season ago. He had a 1.89 ERA, and he started the year off really strong. Columbus State, they're 3-4. They dropped a series this past weekend to Catawba College. Derek Wiley, though, has stayed hot. He's 15 of 26 now to start the year with 4 bombs, 3 doubles, and 13 runs driven in. Obviously, Lander, they're 5-2. They've played well to start. Georgia College is 4-3. And then Flagler and USC Aiken, a pair of teams that have struggled to start, yet to win a game. But overall, the Peach Belt, it's always super fun to watch how this league can perform. And it was a big weekend for a couple of teams in this league for sure, like Lander, who's 5-2, but lost the past weekend series to Lincoln Memorial. They're a team I think that you watch out for as well, along with North Georgia. And, of course, Georgia Southwestern with what we mentioned about their arms. But that's a little bit about the Peach Belt Conference.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, like any of those 4 teams can go on a run and hoist up the Peach Belt Conference Tournament Championship at the end of the season. But that's a fun conference. Another fun conference is the PSAC. And, Will, we got a rare sight as we had 2 PSAC teams play this weekend in the great state of Pennsylvania at home. So a rare early February home games. However, some of them only played, there's a total of 3 total games played at home. But, get the opportunity while you can. And, speaking of getting the opportunity while you can, Mercyhurst had a big opportunity and they capitalized on it. Big 16-0 win against Notre Dame College. Interim head coach Jimmy Latona got his first win. And everyone in that game who made a plate appearance for Mercyhurst got a hit. And leading that way was Zachary Corus, the sophomore third baseman. He went 3 for 5 with a home run and for 5 RBIs. Another team that played just 1 game, but for different reasons, not just because they wanted to get a game in, because of weather. Strippensburg, they went 1-0, going to Carson Newman. 2 other games were canceled due to the weather, but senior first baseman Austin Ball went 3 for 4 with a double and 4 RBIs in their win. A couple other teams open up. Clarion opened their 2024 campaign. They lost both games to Uville, as mentioned earlier. Redshirt junior Sam Economy was perfect in the series, went 2 for 2, recording an at-bat in each game. Number 22 ranked East Stroudsburg played a round-robin tournament this weekend in Wilson, North Carolina. So they went 1-2 against both Barton and Felician. They played Felician twice and Barton just once. Redshirt seniors Tim Haverstick went 6-13 on the weekend with home run and 6 RBIs. And the other team that opened up was Lock Haven. They went 2-0. Junior shortstop Joseph DeCinia went 4 of 8 in the series, and the team posted a 1 ERA in the 2 games. So Millersville was off this weekend. They'll be back. Seton Hill will open up this weekend as well. So lots of like in the PSAC as we go forward. But we have a rare sight of baseball, being played in Pennsylvania in February.
We do, and that's good to see, right? Because those teams have challenges. Those teams like the NSIC, the PSAC, they deal with it sometimes, right? With the Mother Nature, and Mother Nature certainly played a role in how the games ultimately progressed this past weekend. The RMAC is another league we should talk about, and we should talk about a guy like Jack Slominski. 7 1/3, 6 hits, 1 run allowed, had a career best 10 Ks. leading the charge for a 4-2 win over Biola in Friday's first game of the double header. So that's something good for MSU Denver in a high flying series there. Alex Gomez of UC Colorado Springs, he was 7-13 over the weekend with 8 runs scored, 3 bombs, 2 doubles, 7 RBI, and he drew a couple walks. He's a transfer from Orange Coast College. He's hitting .429 on the year. And he's doing some really impressive things just as a freshman on the season. Carlos Chavez went 9-13 with 4 doubles, 1 triple, and had 4 runs driven in with 5 runs scored for New Mexico Highlands. And then also you had CSU Pueblos. They go 2-0 with a couple of wins at St. Edwards. They have a 4-game set versus Emporia upcoming this weekend as well. Colorado Mesa lost 2 of 3 against nationally ranked Rollins, one of the best teams in the country. In their opening series weekend, they went 2-2. They picked up a win against Florida Southern before starting that series against Mesa, who's only hitting .208 to start the year, but obviously 3 games against Rollins and 1 against Florida Southern will do it. And I think that should pick up. I mean, they're going to be a renowned team, that they're going to be a team that's looking to do a little bit more offensively, and they certainly can. Robert Sherrar, slow start, 1-15, but a guy who hit .437 last year with 11 jacks. I mean, he's going to be a guy for him. He just is off to a slow start. MSU Denver, they're 3-4. They're always known for their high-flying offense, and hell, it was a high-flying series like we mentioned. They lost their first game 16-15. And the second game 14-12, but then won 4-2 and 8-4 to conclude the weekend. But that is a little bit of the action from the RMAC. Pueblo sitting at 2-0, and then you've got Mesa 2-2, Regis 3-4-1, MSU Denver 3-4, and then you've got some other teams that have struggled to start the year, like New Mexico Highlands 0-8. And Colorado Christian, Colorado School of Mines, each just with a win. So that's a little bit about the RMAC and what's going on with that league.
Yeah, and as we talk about another league going from the RMAC, we're going to go to the South Atlantic Conference, and a lot happened there. We mentioned earlier, Lincoln Memorial, they took 2-3 against Lander. Junior infielder Carson Bowles, who we talked about last week, we'll keep talking about him this week because he's continues his success at the plate. He's currently hitting 526 at-bats with a home run and 10 runs batted in. Junior Aiden Carter threw 3 scoreless in game one of Saturday's doubleheader, allowing only 1 hit. They're a team that started their season but only played midweek games. So they played a midweek game on Tuesday and a midweek game on Wednesday. They went 2-0. The Coker Cobras, they defeated both Mount Olive, who was receiving votes in some polls, and ranked, as well as Challen on Tuesday and Wednesday, respectively. Coker, as a staff, posted a 1 ERA in those 2 games, with a big win in relief from sophomore right-handed pitcher Jacob Hardy on Wednesday. He went 2 1/3, surrendering a single hit and struck out 3. And another team that we like to talk about a lot in the South Atlantic Conference is Lenore Ryan. They lost to number 3 Greenville in the midweek game, but they didn't let that take them down very much, as they had another weekend sweep this weekend, this time at home against Southern Wesleyan. The Bears had 5 different players record multiple RBIs in a game over the weekend, led by grad first baseman Kyler McPeak's 5 RBI in game 1 of the series, where he hit a grand slam. And as we talk about more of the South Atlantic Conference in terms of standings, we talk a little bit about Lincoln Memorial's at 5-2. Catawba did take 2-3 against Columbus State. They're 4-2. Carson Newman 3-2. Limestone is 3-4. UVA Wise is 3-5. Coker, again, those 2 wins after starting out 1-2 on the weekend. On the midweek, they're 3-2. Some teams are off to a struggle start, but none other than Newberry, who's 1-5, ranked number 17 in the country. They have been struggling, 1-5, and they went down to Tampa and were beaten by Tampa. But Tampa's otherworldly, and we'll mention them when we get to the Sunshine State Conference.
Yes, and first we'll talk about the SIAC, Kentucky State, a team that is starting the year off with 14 straight road games. They went 1-2 against West Alabama. Junior utility man Collier Higgs, he went 4 of 12, including a home run and 5 RBI over the weekend. He's hitting .368 on the year. And DeCarius Chapman threw 6 innings in relief over the weekend, allowing just 2 runs for Kentucky State. Always a team to look at. They're 4-2. Savannah State's 3-0, albeit they were idle. Albany State 1-1. Clark Atlanta, Spring Hill each just 2-5, and Lane Morehouse, Tuskegee, Miles, all struggling to start the year with just picking up a win each, and Benedict yet to begin. But Albany State, they had 2 midweek games on Tuesday and Wednesday last week, going 1-1. The big one was a road win at Columbus State for them, and they won by a score of 7-5. Senior outfielder Quintard Wright had a big bases clearing double and provided the spark in the Golden Ram offense in that particular victory.
And as we talk about that, the SIAC, we'll talk about now the Sunshine State Conference, and we'll talk about how otherworldly Tampa was in this past weekend as they swept number 17 Newberry, now 6-0 on the early campaign. The Spartans have had the highest run differential, plus 75, so they're beating teams by average 12.5 runs in their 6 games. In D2 history, in a team's first 6 games when they played the 3 ranked opponents. So they went down the Houston Winter Invitational, they played Millersville, who was ranked, they played Central Missouri, also ranked, and now they swept Newberry. And so they're looking like a team to beat here in Division II baseball, and so nothing may stop Joe Urso and company for the Tampa Spartans. They're just playing a different brand of baseball above everybody else, and it's just a sight to see. So, and a guy who is a sight to see, especially in college baseball, because he's in his 7th year, E.J. Cumbo. He went 6 for 12 in the series with 6 runs batted in. And another team that maybe is why Tampa is looking so great at the beginning is because they're trying to catch Rollins, a team that went to the Cary, North Carolina the past 2 years, representing the South region in that same conference as Tampa. They took 2 of 3 at home against number 10 Colorado Mesa. Sophomore two-way player Nathan Tinder went 3 of 8 with 6 RBIs in the series, and he also recorded a save in the second game of the series. But it doesn't get any easier for Rollins as they host number 11 West Florida this upcoming weekend, and some other teams that did great is Eckerd. They swept Georgia College at home. Reed Lyle produced a lot of 5s this weekend. He went 5 for 9 with 5 walks and 5 RBI. There's another team to talk about again is St. Leo. They swept Flagler at home, led by the bat of senior Mikey Scott. Mikey Scott is 10 of 18 to start the year, 556 with OPS above 1,300. Senior right-hand pitcher Luke Lashutka had another scoreless start, this time going 8 innings, giving up 6 hits, and striking out 3 batters in the process. So within the Sunshine State, we have Tampa went 6-0. Lynn went 2-1 over the weekend. St. Leo's 5-1. Eckerd's 4-2. Rollins is 4-2. Embry-Riddle's 4-3. Nova Southeastern 4-3. Florida Southern, Florida Tech are 3-4. Barry off to a lot of struggles. They're ranked number 15, but they're only 2-5. We'll look to see if Barry can get it back on track. Palm Beach Atlantic is at 1-6.
Yeah, always a great league, always a lot to say, and a little bit to say here about the independents as well. Salem opened up their season at North Georgia, going 0-3. Mackenzie Wainwright led the charge for Salem. He went 6 of 11 with a couple bombs, 3 runs driven in. Virginia State played 2 of their originally scheduled 4 games against Lock Haven. They went 0-2. Redshirt freshman Thomas Moore, not the school, and grad Dawson Hawk both went 3 of 7. Bluefield State played a single game on Sunday against Concord. They lost a close 14-12 game. Tahir Mullins had 4 hits and 3 runs driven in. Chris Larkin had 3 hits and 3 RBI as well. And Robert, as we've talked about every single league, it's always fun to break down the great game of Division II baseball with you. And I can only help but look ahead, because you talked about that series, man. Rollins just, they don't do themselves any favors with their schedule. You talk about going up against Mesa this past weekend, and now they've got the big bad West Florida squad coming their way as well. There's a couple other series that just catch my eye. I'm intrigued with San Fran State and Azusa, just because is Azusa going to continue a slow start is one of my questions, because going up against a team with some momentum in San Fran State, that's a series out west to watch. But obviously, there's a lot of good series to be played, and we're going to be highlighting that certainly throughout the week. Anytime Tampa plays, we're going to look, and Georgia College is going to be another quality opponent that they go up against. But overall, I'm excited to see how everything can progress. Obviously, Central Oklahoma is a team at 8-0 that we're all watching. I mean, it's a lot of fun to break all this down and see how ultimately everything's progressing at the Division II baseball level, because there's some big series. I think the only other one that comes to mind right now that I think we have to keep tabs on is how Coach Grinder does against old Kevin Brooks, right? I mean, UT Permian Basin and Angelo State is going to be just a thriller series, and a measuring stick for UTPB for sure in that regard. Any series that catch your eye? I know I stole a lot of them, but there are some good ones, man. Even Cal Poly Pomona and Westmont's something to look at. See how Westmont does at the D2 level now.
Yeah, and like you mentioned, Westmont being able to play at this level, it's a good standard to see talent levels between maybe the NAIA level and the Division II level. So I really appreciate having Westmont now at Division II ranks right after winning the NAIA National Championship, because now we can have a good standard set of how does the best team in NAIA perform at the Division II level. So we get a unique opportunity there. And yeah, like we mentioned, they face a really good Cal Poly Pomona team, a team that feels like they should be at the top of the CCAA, as mentioned
Yeah.
earlier. And, as some other games, yeah, you mentioned Rollins, West Florida. Be interesting to see if Permian Basin can continue that success, against that stalwart in Angelo State. But a lot there too. And then West Texas A&M 7-1.
Yeah.
They're going against St. Edwards, who have been receiving votes. So a lot to like there. And obviously North Georgia with their 5-1 start, they're hosting number 13 ranked Quincy. It'll be interesting to see how Quincy performs this weekend. Opening up, as they've lost quite a bit of their production as well on both sides of the ball. So a lot to like here, and we're gonna be sure to cover all of it here this week for you with Division II baseball and Division II baseball insider.
Yes, sir, Robert. Before we go, I'm just going to mention a couple more that I'm looking at, if that's okay with you, for whoever
Oh, of
else wants to
course.
know. I think Post in North Greenville, right? I think particularly that Friday game when you're going to get a Reese Fields versus Matt Saman matchup. I mean, that could be a thriller. North Greenville's obviously going to be a little bit favored, but Post is coming off an incredible year. I mean, and not a lot of people know about what they did within their league a season ago. Lee and Shorter, I think, is another one. Can Shorter stay undefeated? Is another question about things happening here. But man, there's so many good series that happen at the beginning of a season because there's all this intrigue, and again, there are a lot of good ones. I think Southeastern Oklahoma at 6-1 against a team like Southern Arkansas is fun to watch. Davenport and Central Missouri. I mean, talk about a tough way to begin your season, having to take on Central Mo in the opening weekend for you. If you're a Davenport team, that's going to be fun to watch. But overall, I'm really looking to see if Barry can get going too. A slow start for them, and they've got to play a good Frostburg State team. So we'll see. We'll see how any of that goes. But yeah, just kind of flowing it. I know there's a lot of really good series coming up this weekend, and again, we'll be sure to cover it all for you here on DIVII baseball Twitter account, and tell us what you think about your particular league, your particular conference, your particular favorite player, team, or upcoming series. Tweet at us. And then again, if you want exclusive access to some of the best minds in Division II baseball, I would encourage you to subscribe. It's $75. We'll tell you, if you're listening all the way to this way, there's a way to make that a little bit cheaper if you really want. Cavadi's Corner is a code that we've used. We've teamed up with the best Division II baseball mind, really probably in the past decade, putting out content on D2 baseball, and that's Wayne Cavadi. I mean, he's partnered with us to write stories every week. So if you use his code, Cavadi's Corner, you'll get a big old discount on that stuff. So, and you'll get to know that, hey, Wingate's taking on Newberry. That's a series, So there's just stuff like that, and there's just more details, and there's interviews of great minds. I mean, to be honest, and then now it sounds kind of funny, Robert, but like after last issue dropped, I went ahead and said, dang it, I'm subscribing, because this thing is amazing. And it's like, I don't know, I would encourage you guys to. And if you don't think it's worth the money, I mean, shoot, let us know. We'll get you right. We'll get you refunded. But I really think it's worth it if you want to get D2 baseball. And it's fun for an opportunity to talk this stuff with you too, Robert. So I really appreciate that.
Hey, same goes with you, Will, and yeah, like you said, subscribe. I mean, we work pretty hard to make sure that we provide the best kind of coverage for you in Division II baseball. Bring light to Division II baseball. Give the light that it deserves, and we'll be excited for this week. There are still currently 19 unbeaten teams who have at least played one game this season. So we'll be interested to see how those teams play out. And right after we hop off this, we're going to go right into watching Division II baseball midweek matchups. There's quite a few big midweek matchups as we're going to watch those as well. But thank you so much for watching, and really appreciate everyone taking the time out to listen to this Division II baseball coverage.